Hello and welcome to our next episode on breaking down supplements. So today we are going to be looking at everything you need to know about creatine. So first of all, what even is creatine? It's a dodgy looking white powder that your mum does not want you taking, but it has a load of benefits. So creatine basically aids all muscular contractions during exercise or during movement, if I'm honest. So creatine is stored within our body, called and referred to as phosphocreatine. Phosphocreatine aids the production of ATP, adenine triphosphate. Adenine triphosphate is known as the energy currency within our body. So quickly, we're just going to dive into that. What is ADP to ATP? As we kind of do want to know the main use for creatine phosphate. So ATP, adenine triphosphate, is required for muscular contractions, as previously mentioned. When you contract a muscle, it then breaks off a phosphate and becomes adenine diphosphate, di4-2, which isn't overly useful for us now. So the creatine phosphate, or the comes over and is like, hey, I've got this phosphate, do you want it? And the adenine diphosphate says, yes, please. And it's as simple as that. The adenine diphosphate gets another phosphate and becomes adenine triphosphate. And then it can create another contraction. And that little circle of them being friends and giving each other a phosphate every now and then, or the creatine at least, is what we want to occur. So that's it very simply. So what are the benefits? Obviously, we've just spoken about regeneration of ATP. Then there's been shown to be improved intensity and quality of resistance training sessions, which again, if we can train harder and it more intense, we're more likely to gain lean muscle mass, assuming that we are in a high calorie, high protein even, and calorie surplus diet. Improvements in overall muscle mass, strength, and body composition have been shown, as well as less muscle damage and inflammation after a 30-kilometer run, which gives evidence that even endurance athletes should probably supplement creatine. Greater muscular glycogen storages, which if you watched the caffeine supplement, we know is a good thing. The more glycogen we can store in our body, the more likely we're going to be able to maintain a high level of performance, so that's beneficial. And potentially even potential improvements in memory, stress, and aging. I say potential as it's not really been confirmed, but if there's a slight chance of that, I'm all for it. So are you getting enough? No is going to be the honest answer. To be honest, there are very few people that from their diet will be getting enough creatine. So normal diet has 1 to 2 grams of creatine, and I say normal, I've made a big assumption that normality includes the consumption of meat. So if you are vegetarian or vegan, you definitely aren't going to be getting enough, because the main sources of creatine are going to be coming from meat, fish, and dairy. So if you follow a plant-based diet, I'd 100% recommend you stop this video right now, like, subscribe, share, and then go and buy some creatine. So supplementation would be recommended for everyone, because 1 to 2 grams a day from your diet is only going to lead you to about 60 to 80% saturation. So what does that mean? How much should we take it, and when should we take it? Well, there are two main camps of this, two main approaches, both of which have been proven to work. I want to say, first of all, you would have heard of, or probably heard of, you need to do a loading phase, bro. Yeah, you need to load it. You don't actually need to, but if you wanted to, a loading phase would be taking 20 to 25 grams every day for 5 to 7 days. It's been recommended that if you are going to take that higher dosage, you'd break that down into 4 to 5 smaller doses. So 5 servings of 5 grams to get you to your 25 grams that day. This will saturate your storages quicker. However, one, you're having to chug some creatine every 5 hours or 4 hours even. It may be even less depending on how long you're awake for. It's going to cost you a lot more, or you're going to have to take like 30 tablets in a day, which I don't think many people want to be doing. Then after that 5 to 7 day period, you'd be looking at a flat maintenance rate of 3 to 5 grams per day. These flat loading is the next option, and that's the one I personally recommend to my clients, and the one I personally do, is where you just take 3 to 5 grams every day. This can also be calculated per body weight, where you have 0.1 gram of creatine per kilogram of body weight, but again, 3 to 5 grams has been shown just to be enough. If you have a look at this graph, I want to say that this is completely arbitrary numbers, a graph that I've made up. It's just to demonstrate that you will get to saturation with the slower loading. Don't take this as scientific graph. I put those numbers in and just created like a visual representation, okay? Because I couldn't find one on the internet, so I thought I'd just make one. That isn't actual science, that rate isn't correct, but it's just to show that over the period, if you use the 20 to 25 grams a day, you will get to saturation quicker. However, you can still get to saturation levels with the 3 to 5 grams steady loading. I personally, like I said, I'm a massive advocate of the 3 to 5 grams a day. You're less likely to see any side effects, which we'll go on to later. It's more convenient and less expensive. However, it does mean that it might take up to 4 weeks or even further, but normally around 4 weeks it will take to get to saturation. There has been sort of a washout period. So if you stopped taking creatine, your stores would remain fairly high for about 6 weeks. So say you're going on holiday and you didn't want to have to take a little baggie of white powder, probably security wouldn't appreciate that. If you're only going away for a week or two, then you don't need to sweat it. You're not going to suddenly deplete all your storages. You'll be fine to just jump back on the creatine when you get home. So the timing of it, realistically, there has been studies showing that both pre, intra and post is beneficial. Post-workout has potentially slightly greater benefits. However, consistency over timing is going to be a lot better and yield better results. So quite often, if you didn't train and you forgot to take it, that's going to obviously be detrimental. So I'll just have it in my pre-bed shake every night, because I then know that I'm going to be consistently taking creatine. So what type of creatine should I take? There are a number out there, and there's always going to be the latest supplement company, their claim to fame of saying this is the new best thing, when realistically it's not. As you can see, I mean, I can't even pronounce some of those, but creatine monohydrate has been proven multiple times to be the best standard and yield the best results. Creatine ethyl ester and creatine salts and whatever the middle one, however you pronounce that, haven't been shown to have any extra benefits. Pills versus powder. I previously briefly touched on this in regards to loading phase. Obviously, if you are loading, normally the pills are huge, and a serving size would be 5 to 6 pills, meaning that if you're loading, you'd be taking nearly 30 pills a day just on creatine. So I wouldn't recommend that. I just put it in with my juice and we're good to go, or my shake. There is one study that I did see saying how there was still benefits from the pills. However, it was quite a small study, and it was only a pilot study, but the pills seem to be just as efficient. So if you really don't like the grittiness of the creatine, as it does have quite a gritty consistency when you mix it in, pills are just as beneficial from the literature I looked at. So I didn't even realize that there was non-responders. I'd heard of it, but I always thought it was a bit of like a bro science thing and people just making excuses for being bit of a weakling. However, there was a number of studies that have shown that non-responders do occur, and normally the non-responders already have higher levels of creatine saturation. So I know we previously mentioned 60 to 80% saturation is like a normal healthy range, or a normal healthy range when you have a meat-based diet. Here, if you're a non-responder, you could potentially have higher saturation levels already. So that's why you're a non-responder, because you're already saturated. But then they also noted that you have less type 2 muscle fibers, so the fast twitch muscle fibers, and also smaller cross-sectional area of muscle fibers, and lower fat-free mass. So basically, if you eat a lot of meat, you're weak and fat, you could be a non-responder. Bit savage, but that's reading between the lines. That's trying to simplify it for us. So what are the side effects? Loads of people have said, oh, I'm sure you've heard of people say it's bad for your kidneys, it's bad for hair loss, this. That's all wrong. They're all myths, okay? It is one of the most commonly used supplements, most widely researched supplements, and you can buy it over the counter. If it's going to damage your kidneys, it wouldn't be that easy to get, okay? There has been multiple studies debunking the myth that it's going to be detrimental to kidney health. There was one study that did say that it was. However, they disregarded the fact that the participant already was like 8 years into a degenerative kidney disease. So they put that down to the creatine, not his underlying health conditions. So it's not going to be detrimental on your kidney health. You'll be fine. Hair loss, again, it has been implied that creatine supplementation could be linked to hair loss via an increase in DHT. DHT is linked to hair loss. However, further studies have said that there was no increase in DHT. DHT can and will be increased in resistance-trained males anyway, but there's not been a significant increase due to creatine consumption. And large doses can lead to loose bowel movements. So that's again why I say don't go for your loading phase, so you'll probably get the shits. My phone just died, so we're now back onto the quickfire questions from Instagram with Mr. Vanity Smith. That is me. If you're not following me on Instagram, why not? Lots of mind-blowing information going on over there, and a lot of topless pictures and protein bar reviews. But anyway, I digress. What are the best ways to get it into you, pills versus powder? Again, to my knowledge, the bioavailability from either pills or powder is very similar, so whatever suits you best. If you can't, the pills are normally very big. I'd probably just go for the powder. It is a little bit gritty though, and people don't like that. Strength to weight ratio. Quite often people do worry about water retention, which is obviously going to skew your strength to weight ratio. The water retention is only acute, so for a short period of time, and only really noted if you go through a large loading phase. So if you're really worried about the strength to weight ratio being manipulated, don't load it. So go for a straight 3 to 5 grams a day, and it's not going to be a sustained change. If anything, you will gain strength. So yeah, it's positive. How much to have a day? 3 to 5 grams a day is more than enough. Do you have it on training days? Yes, have it every single day. Consistency is always a winner. Should endurance athletes use it? In my opinion, yes. Every athlete, every person should use it, in my opinion. I have just even bought my parents some. So endurance athletes, we've already spoken about the glycogen storages and also the decrease in inflammation and muscle damage after a 30-kilometer run. If that's not enough evidence, well, it should be. Creatine for vegetarians and vegans, yes, get it. Bulk powders, MyProtein, they do vegetarian, vegan variations. You are probably I'd put a lot of money on that your creatine saturations are going to be lower than the average, so you will see better results. Can I convince my mum or your mum it's safe? It is safe. It's the most studied supplement. It is probably the most used supplement after protein and caffeine. If it wasn't safe, we'd have a lot more news about it. The way they already demonize caffeine, if this had some adverse effects, it would be plastered all over mainstream media. Is it worth it? It's one of the cheapest supplements per serving. I use it every day. I recommend my clients to use it every day. It gets the Mr. Vanity Smith thumbs up. Use it, buy it, love it. Like, share, subscribe. As always, any questions, drop them below, and I'm always happy to dive a little bit deeper and help out.